Happy Canada Day. We're back at the cottage with the S12. It's a very, very rainy day. I took the time to make a list of what we need to get done before the first drive. And the first thing on that list is to paint the intercooler bracket and install the intercooler. So that's what we're going to be doing first. With the weather today, finding opportunities to paint has not been very easy. If you look behind me, you can see clouds and haze all over the place. So painting outside hasn't been, but I'm hoping that we've done enough to make sure that rust doesn't build on this intercooler mount. It's a very exciting moment for the S12. For the first time since this car was built in 1986, it is going to have an intercooler. I've drilled the holes for the bracket. Everything looks like it fits. I loosely got on 2 couplers. It's time for the install. Paint intercooler bracket and install intercooler. Done. Only a few more to go. Next up, I'm picking weld lower radiator mounts. It's going to be an interesting one for me because I don't know how to weld. So I'm going to be test fitting the radiator, probably putting it in, taking it out dozens of times. And with the weather that we've had today, I won't be able to weld indoors. We don't have any ventilation. So I'll get everything test fitted and figure it out from there. Thank you, Canadian Tire, for the existence of this battery-powered LED light bar. Hey, Val.
Hi.
What's the store that you go to on Canada Day?
IGA Canadian Tire.
There it is!
Let's take a look under the car. Right here, there's just a piece of galvanized steel pipe that I'm going to be welding to the frame for one of the radiator mounts. And then the other one is same situation on the other side. And there is a considerable overhang, so I'm probably going to need to stick something underneath there, or maybe cut longer pieces of pipe and just notch them for the part where they can extend here. But I'll be figuring that out. So far, this is looking good.
Words.
Words? Alright, say the words. This may not look like it right now, but it's going to soon become our radiator mount. So I'm going to be cutting the front section of pipe off, cutting a notch into it. That way it sits up against the side of the frame rail, as well as the top. And that should give enough surface area to weld for even someone who has no idea what they're doing to be able to make something sturdy.
turns out that for the radiator to sit optimally, the solution might actually be asymmetry. So we have this notched section here, and on the other side, it's just a straight piece of galvanized. We might need to shorten that ever so slightly, but that allows the radiator to sit right where it wants to. The primary constraint here being that the radiator sits so much closer to the engine that finding hoses that fit right without altering the water neck requires the radiator to be in a bit of a weird place. This should work.
I've got the radiator mounts ready to go. So what I'm going to be doing right now is cleaning the paint off of the frame of the car where I've kind of loosely marked where the radiator mounts are going to be welded. After that, I'm going to reinstall the radiator, place the mounts, tack them in place, then take the radiator out again, take the intercooler out, properly weld them. Properly. I'm a programmer, not a welder. And then reinstall everything. At that point, the engine should be ready to take coolant.
Nice.
Yeah. They may not be pretty, but these welds will do. They will more than do. Now that the welding's done for the lower radiator mounts, I still need to hit them with a wire wheel, brake clean them, and then paint them so that rust doesn't build up. But then it'll be on to the next task. I'm gonna pick something relatively easy next. Let's go with install hoses for boost gauge and brake boost check valve. Out with the old and in with the new. I've connected the brake booster vacuum lines as well as this input that will be from the throttle body. That's supposed to go to the module for the OEM gauge cluster's boost pressure needle. There we go. And then this check valve so that we don't get any boost signal at the brake booster. I thought that was a check valve, but I'm not really sure what that is. If you know what this little thing in the middle of the brake booster line is on these old Nissans, let me know in the comments. Now, one of the goals with this build is to make sure that the gauge cluster works as if this were a factory engine. So to test this, bring this into the car, and looking at the gauge cluster, I should be able to inhale and exhale on this tube and see movement. I call that a success. That's another one down. Next up, and hopefully for the last time, install starter. Installing the starter took all of a few minutes. If you watched my last video, you know it's not my first time installing or uninstalling the starter on this car. For those of you wondering if anyone is, I chose to go with the Park Auto Motorsport Mishimoto starter. I'm not sure if it's a Mishimoto or not, but even then the Amazon one was dinged up from when I got it. So just to go with the Park Auto one, I'm sticking with that. And I think it's safe to say install starter is done. Next task on the list, wire start signal and gauges. We are
in the driver's side footwell where I've finished teeing in a few connections. So right here, the blue and white stripe is supposed to be the tack signal for this car. Now I've read that with KA swaps, the signal strength coming from the ECU's wire isn't strong enough, but I'm going to give this a go. And if not, I can use 4 diodes and the 4 coil pack signal wires, and that should give me the same result. Now over here, the purple and white stripe wire, that's the water temperature gauge. Now, again, I've teed in here. I don't know if the water temp sensor for the SR20 is going to be compatible with the input for the water temp gauge on this car, but we'll see once I actually get water into it. And then the last thing that I've teed into, and I realize now that I didn't actually need to tee in, is the start signal. The reason I didn't need to tee in is because, I mean, I guess it goes to the ECU. It's good for the ECU to know that. But it also goes to the dash connector, which is something that comes in S13s but does not exist in S12s. Coming to the outside of the car, all the wiring is very loosely zip tied over here. The plan is hopefully to have this car move under its own power tomorrow. So I just want to keep everything out of the way of the wheel. It really does feel like every weekend that I come up to the cottage to work on the S12, I'm up until much later than I should be, and it always seems to be doing wiring. But I'm glad that that's done. Let me find that post-it so I can drop it on the ground. Wire start signal engages. Calling it a night.